I have occupied these guest chairs with two of my favorite people in the whole world. We talk to Laura Rodriguez from the Center for American Progress Fund all the time, and you also hear on our air Leigh McGowan. You know her better as Politics Girl. She has brought common sense to political discourse. I couldn't be more pleased to have both of you here. You guys, do you know each other?
No, we just met.
Oh, my God.
Which is
you need to know each other.
Very
You're
exciting.
both amazing and
Fan.
energetic. And you both, one of the things, I interview a lot of people. And one of the things that I appreciate is someone who speaks plainly and truthfully. And it's not as easy to find as you might think. You have come out of nowhere to become one of the most famous people in all of politics, Leigh McGowan, Politics Girl. How did you get started?
Honest to God, this version of the Politics Girl project really got started during the pandemic. I was already doing civics because I'm a giant political nerd, and I thought that people should know how the country worked, and they would care more about it and vote more if they understood how the whole system worked. So I was already busy doing civics, and then the pandemic happened, and I got trapped in my house with my husband, and I was following him around, ranting at him about Trump, and he said, honestly, Leigh, I love you, but you got to put this energy somewhere else. And I was like, where am I supposed to put it? And he was like, I don't know, TikTok? And I'm like, TikTok? I'm not a flippin' teenager who dances. Anyway, put it in my window and started talking just about how I felt about politics. And it was amazing, the response that I got, because it was really just, as you said, common sense ways of thinking of things based in facts, which is what people need.
And you correctly referred to it as the Politics Girl Project because you have a book coming out.
I do.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's really funny because it went from the rants to a podcast. Now it's a book, right? So it's like it really is a full project now. The book is called A Return to Common Sense, and it's called A Return to Common Sense, How to Fix America Before We Really Blow It. And what it is honestly, the whole first part is just a little America 101 refresher in case people don't remember quite how our government works. They can say, what are we talking about when we said the legislative branch? We'll just check the front of Leigh's book. Oh, yeah, okay. And then it goes on to 6 major principles that I think anyone on any side of the political spectrum can agree makes America America, whether that's America's a land of freedom, or everyone should have a vote and their vote should count, or government should be a force for good. I think it doesn't matter where you sit on the political spectrum. That should be something that if you're an American, you can agree on. And I take those 6 principles and I use them not only as guideposts to sort of move us out of this moment we're in, but also as a lens to look at the country moving forward. If this politician does not fit into those 6 principles, they probably shouldn't be elected. If this piece of legislation doesn't fit into those 6 principles, it probably shouldn't be passed. And it's a simpler way to look at our political system that puts us all back on common ground.
Laura Rodriguez writes for Center for American Progress, and one of the reasons that I like to interview Laura is, like you and like me, she gets all excited about this stuff. and she does all the legwork. Like, she'll tell you what's going on in Florida or any place else across the street, so I sound smarter when I talk to her. What are you working on now, Laura?
Oh, thank you so much. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me here. And with Leigh, this is a huge honor for me, and I do really appreciate the civics. So I just wanted to touch base really quickly on that because it is something that no one's talking about anymore, the basics of our country, what it's about. And this is why when people hear what some of Project 2025 is about, they freak out because they're like, wait, that doesn't sound like our country. So we're, in a very strange way, we're kind of almost backing into civics again, and it's so, so important, not just to speak plainly the way that Leigh does, but also because she's doing it where she's doing it. She's meeting people where they are. Joan, you and I have talked about this a lot. You've got to meet people where they are. That is where they are. That is why you're so successful, and we are so appreciative that you're doing this work. With that, we are also trying to get some of our other Democratic, spokespeople, members that are younger, that are really trying to communicate with the younger audience out into non-traditional media. Exactly what Leigh is doing on TikTok, on YouTube shows, on Twitch, on things that I do not understand myself because I'm, closer to 50 than 40. So, really, again, meeting people where they are. It's so important to get our message out there. And sometimes it's not even to talk about politics. Go on the golf. Do you love to golf? Go on the golf podcast and talk about your human part, right? Like, you're not just a politician. You also have a life. You have a family. You love to cook Italian. You love to make, crochet. You like to say, something. So really get out there and connect with people where they are, because you know what, folks don't want to talk about politics all the time. This time of year is maybe a little bit different,
Laura.
But right now it's important that we meet them where they are in other places.
What you're talking about, I think that's Tim Wall's
That's
specialty.
what I was going to say.
That is Tim
That's why
Wall's
we love
specialty.
him. He's
that
a person.
video where he's trying to convince his daughter that turkey is for vegetarians. I mean, you don't get any more human than that, isn't it? It's amazing.
Yeah.
Or the texting while no texting while driving law. Where, oh my gosh, that video is just hilarious.
I missed that one.
I think the thing about Tim is that his authenticity is something that people try so hard to fake. And I think that it's so funny that Obama mentioned that in the second night of this convention, that he said, Tim Walz is actually wearing his own flannel shirts, not something that his campaign manager bought to make him look folksy, right? Like, those shirts have been through something, and you feel like you watch him and you go, this is a real veteran, a real coach, a real father, a real person. And you know what? So am I. And I connect with him because this is authentic.
When Joe Biden was speaking and they kept taking shots of him, at first I was like, why is he frowning? And then I was like, oh my God, he's crying.
Yeah.
It seems like, and I don't know if this question, it goes back to what you were saying about common sense and what you were saying about regular stuff. So it seems as though part of the reason that we've had so many people pulling away from politics in the last 20 years is because our everyday regular folks who are voters have felt like they've been talked to and talked down to and talked at, rather than talked with and partnered. And, Joan and I talk about this a lot. If we could keep it simple, and if we could make it plain for people to go, oh yeah, I wasn't born in a political seat. I ascended to it. And just like somebody, like you said about, if you play golf, hey, let us see what you do. And other than, being a politician. And it seems it's refreshing to hear that there are folks like Leigh that are doing work that break it down and make it really easy. Because I think one of the biggest challenges, and please comment on this, is that civics has become less important. And as a result, we've accidentally, maybe intentionally, dumbed down our society when it comes to how our systems work. And your book's going to kind of flip the script on that.
That's exactly why I wrote it. Honest to God, I wrote it because not paying attention to politics doesn't mean politics doesn't affect you. It means you can't affect it. And we can't fix anything if we don't know how it works. If you say to me, your car's making this funny noise, I'm going to open the hood, it's the carburetor. So just fix the carburetor. I'm like, cool. Which one's the carburetor? Like, I would have no idea, right? And I think that's how most people feel about government, right? You're like, well, the problem is the filibuster in the Senate. And you're like, okay, well, like, if you don't know, then how would you know? Yeah. But if people understand how it works, then they can start saying, I actually want a representative that's going to fix the filibuster, because I'd like my vote to count. And I would like to pass voter reforms that means we can't have partisan gerrymandering or dark money in politics. So that means I can't have some guy like Jim Jordan doing, the job for years and years, and you can't get him out of the seat. That's impossible. And it's not a representative democracy. And we want people to say, you know what? I actually want more representatives who do what I sent them to Washington to do. I don't want to be angry at the president when really I should be angry at my state senator.
There you go.
We don't know, right? So the more we know, the more we care, and the more we care, you can't once the wool's off your eyes, you can't put it back on.
You can't put it back on. Yeah, because you still see through it.
Yeah.
And Laura, you mentioned Project 2025, which is just the culmination of all this. But we've talked about this before. Why do the Republicans think some kind of fantasy 1950s life is where this country should be? Women should be home having babies, and black and brown people should know that clears the playing field for the white men to take over again, doesn't it? I mean, it's just, but people who, I saw interviews with Trump voters when Nikki Haley was in the mix, and they were like, even the women were like, oh, well, a woman shouldn't be president. We're nurturing. Women are nurturing, so we could, she probably couldn't make the tough decisions. And I'm sitting in my home and I'm screaming at the television. There's a little bit of foam coming off the side of my mouth. I just don't understand. But Project 2025, they put together the blueprint for how they plan to do this.
I'd venture to say that it's not most Republicans either. I think that's why you're seeing so many Republicans throughout this week and throughout, I think, in the next few months, you're going to see so many Republican leaders come out and say, we cannot go back. Because I don't think we're there. And I don't think most of the country is there. It's a tiny, tiny fraction. I'll tell you, I think they put that plan out over a year ago because nobody was paying attention to it. And
I
they
did a
thought they were going
podcast
to
on it
bury
in
it.
January. It was my top of the year podcast, and everyone thought I was out of my mind. Yeah. And it's in the book because I wrote the book last year. And no one was talking about it, like you said. But the thing is that this is what they wrote down for us to read. This isn't even like the secret plan once they've made us go back in the kitchen, once they have us barefoot and pregnant and having babies we can't afford. This is the project they wrote down. Yeah. There's another whole thing.
And that is what is so terrifying about it. Not just that they wrote this down and that, because a lot of people will tell you, oh, well, the parties always do this. They put forth, plans for the future.
This is different.
This is so different. Because it is not just a policy, it is a how-to, right?
And
they learned their lesson
changes.
From the last one, right?
They
said,
changes.
we're not going to let that opportunity that we had in 2016 go to waste again. We are going to know exactly how to do it. We're going to do it quick, and people are not even going to know what happened. They definitely tried to bury it. Thank goodness for folks like you that we are bringing it to light.
Yeah, out there talking about boring things that sound like nothing when you say, we have to watch out for Schedule F. And everyone's like, all right, weirdo. And you're like, actually, that means gutting the entire federal government and surrounding yourself with, like, Trump loyalists. It's the most bananas thing, and yet they tried to do it in Trump's first term, and Biden got rid of it as soon as he became president. But it'll be back in a heartbeat.
And one quick thing about that, some of our polling shows that yes, definitely don't say Schedule F. No one knows.
Can you imagine?
But when you talk about civil servants, right, in a very plain language, and you tell people they want to replace 50,000 scientists, medical professionals, engineers, and they want to take them out of government and they want to put Trump loyalists in, they're like, wait, what? So it's a very, just a little bit of a language change, and people really do care that you have professionals in those positions.
And here's the other part of it. Yes, we have to have the professionals there. There's a significant economic impact of that radical of a shift. 50,000 people is larger than many small communities in the country. So taking 50,000 people out of the economic stream is going to massively impact not only federal income tax, but state income taxes, where it's based on where those people live. Because most folks think that those 50,000 people live in Washington, D.C. Yeah. Now, they live down the street. Yeah. And Chicago is one of the largest federal employers in the country. Yeah. So that's why it has to be broken down, like you've been doing, and made simple. The conversations have to be, what color is the sky? Okay. What's is water clear or not?
And then you get Fox News on top of that, and they're like, sky doesn't have a color today. The color is red, and you're like, oh, I see. We're just gonna live in a fantasy
Or Leigh, how about this one? There's no sky.
There is no sky.
There's no sky.
Sky is a communist myth
right.
that Marxists came up with.
Yes, we're going to get rid of those skies when we take over and get rid of all the communists.
It's got to crack you guys up, the two of you particularly, when you see a Gordon Klepper and some of the other folks that go out and do these roving reports and ask people questions, and you really we have to ask this question: was that really a real scenario? And there's a part of me, and maybe you guys feel the same way, that you feel for the person. Okay, am I crazy?
No, I do, and I feel for the country, honestly, because they're not outliers, right? He could throw a stone in any of those places and they'll all answer basically the same way. And so I get it. Like, I feel for them. I also feel for our country because we have let them down. Mm-hmm. And by the way, talk about playing the long game. They've defunded public education for decades with this plan in mind in many ways, right? Like, just they can roll us back if people don't really know what to look for, what to fight back on. So, I mean, it's been very successful, and that's why Jordan Klepper gets to, talk to those folks and get those answers.
Yeah, those Jordan Klepper interviews really depress me. It makes me sad because, like you said, it's not really people's fault. If you don't learn the information in school and then your news media lies to you and there's no repercussions for that. It's one of the things I think we need to do. I think we need to elect leaders that will put truth in broadcasting laws back in.
Yep.
You shouldn't be able to lie to the public and get away with it. You shouldn't be able to put stuff up on social media, which easily has the ability with its algorithms now to catch fake news.
Yep. We need more regulation, especially when it comes to media
and
we fairness
owe it to
regulations.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much. That music means that I was supposed to shut up a while ago, but I was ignoring it because I am just so thrilled to meet you, Leigh McGowan from the Politics Girl Project, and one of my favorite people, as I say all the time, for the Center for American Progress, Laura Rodriguez, the lovely Richard Chu, who starts his day way too early in the morning. Thank you all for being here. We are going to wrap up. Driving it home with Patty Vasquez is going to be next. She's around here somewhere. Have a great evening, my friends. Stay safe. Good night.